Miami. Miami, 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 Miami. It feels like Miami.
Welcome to the Heat Podcast. I'm your host, Carlo Navas, and with me today, got producer and co-founder Brian Goins on the eve of our 10-year anniversary. That's tomorrow. Celebrate with us live on Hangover Time. 10 years of Miami Heat Beat. Told George Sedano the other day, we've been bugging you for 10 years, and he goes, too damn long, longer than some of my kids. Brian, how are you this wonderful Monday evening?
I'm doing extremely well. Miami's up 3-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals, one win away from their NBA Finals appearance in 3 seasons, the second in the Jimmy Butler era. And what better way to celebrate that monumental moment than to have the one guy who we've been super big on. Heat fans grew to love you because of us, I think. And now you're back on with us for a third appearance, Solomon Hill.
Solomon,
Man, thank
welcome
you for having me. Thank you.
to the program. Lifer.
Appreciate it.
Do you realize how much Heat fans love you?
You know what? It's after being on the Heat and understanding, you kind of see culture from an out of body experience. You just see people talk about it, and you don't really get to understand it. But once you're in it, and you kind of get to understand, the foundation and being in that situation, you have a deep appreciation for the fans of the Miami Heat. So, it's a lot different. It's a different landscape out there for different fan bases, but the Miami Heat is one that is it's pretty depth. It has a lot of characters to it, and it's beautiful. And you get to see in full force at this moment, especially on Twitter.
I think we have to put it into context because your time to Heat was only half a season long since you got traded around the trade deadline, along with Vicky and Jay Crowder. So I think if I had to rank it in terms of how quickly of an impact you are in terms of becoming a favorite in the Heat fan base community, it's you probably 1 and number 2 is Beno Udrih.
Yeah, you and Beno.
I don't know if you know the Beno Udrih story or not.
No, I
Not
don't.
how he became a Heat legend. The story goes that he was basically I think I don't forget what the trade was exactly, how Miami got him, or maybe he had signed as a vet minimum deal. And around the trade deadline, Miami was trying to find ways to get under the luxury tax as they usually do. And he took less money in his buyout or his waive to basically help Mickey Harrison get under the luxury tax. And they brought him back the next season on a training camp deal and basically paid him more than I think he could have made on a vet minimum. So he basically they kind of reimbursed him that way. So it's between you and Beno Udrih in terms of quickest fan base to gravitate towards a player.
Man, it's really, I'd say I think the driving force behind me staying in that kind of mode with Miami Heat is really about Coach Spo. His ability to think the game. I think that was a beautiful part about the game that I appreciate the most is not only the competitiveness, but the mental aspect of it, of the X's and O's, every little detail that goes into not just playing the game, but executing the game. And so that appreciation, watching him now, these aren't. It's not a situation that he just kind of thought about today or yesterday before the playoffs. This is something that he's been working on, and the whole Miami Heat front office has been for the past few years. So a lot of people are looking at Gabe. You look at every other team. You look at the play of Gabe Vincent. Spo knew what he was doing. Put him in a situation where you get some culture, he trusts you, and then you go out there and you can play that type of basketball. And so I think that I have a deep appreciation for his ability to get the most out of players and to trust players. Some coaches look at you and they don't trust you, but he knows that the guys are putting in the work. You put in the work, and he's going to put you in an opportunity to prove yourself there. You look at the team is full of dogs that appreciate the ability to go and play basketball, high-level basketball, and to be ready. Everybody's ready. So there's a deep appreciation as a fan and as a player to having your guys ready, having them comfortable and confident, and kind of desperate for the moment. Sure.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because they asked Caleb Martin and Gabe Vincent this kind of following the game, how like Spo like they asked how do you feel like empowered by Spo, and they kind of talked at length about, you know, kind of the freedom to take the shots, that you have a freedom to miss shots, and you know, just credit how prepared he is. I know that Zach Lowe talked about a certain action where like they're loading up on the weak side of the ball. They have like 4 Heat players while Jimmy's running, you know, like isolating Derek White, and Boston was kind of ready for that action for game 3. And what the Heat would do is just like they had a pre-adjustment where like Bam would kind of cut through the middle of the floor, taking those defenders out, and just kind of how, I don't know, man, Spo's been incredible. So I hate to give you a talk about question, but like, can you give us a little insight of to like his preparedness and kind of his process in general for these series, because he has been as good as I can remember in this playoff run, and just, I mean, he deserves all the flowers.
Well, you know, the fact that he's in a situation where people say he deserves flowers, I think he loves that more. He relishes in that more than he doesn't want the flowers. He doesn't care anything about the flowers. He wants to just do his job at a standard that echoes through his team. You know, he wants to be able to show up every day. He wants to be able to be at work before anybody, the last one to leave. You know, he's not just thinking about that game. He has probably 6 or 7 plans of hypotheticals if they were to take something away, if something goes. But he respects his job. He respects his craft. It's a reason why he has the relationship and the opportunity he does in Miami. And when you have the respect for your craft as he does, you know, that's when you talk about coaching. You know, you talk about now you're asking your players to have the same type of preparedness that you have. And it just, you know, that ripples down to everybody, and it becomes culture. You know, you kind of have to abide by how he does things, because he's going to show you that he can do it. And he'll take players that he believes in and put them in a situation to be successful. And you know, it's beautiful. Honestly, it's what guys, that accountability that you need, is that, you know, you want to have that confidence that your coach is going to show up for you, and he does that, and it lets the guys go out there and be confident in the way they play.
Who's a bigger psychopath, Jimmy or Spo?
Spo's
sure. Crazy. No, I'm glad that you said that. Spo's insane.
Because it's different. It's different where it's like they have this beautiful relationship, you know, that can't be explained by anybody outside of them two, because they both have these edges and these thought processes that make them who they are, and coming together has been successful in this sense, maybe, you know, but not by Spo or Jimmy's terms. You know, their success is winning it all. So, you know, we're sitting here watching the fruits of their labors and able to watch beautiful basketball at the same time.
It's, you know, it's funny because like throughout this playoff run, Jimmy's obviously been on a heater of heaters with ultimate troll moves, the timeout, pointing to Al Horford, the pointing at Drew Holiday like on your head as he scores over him, the whole Grant Williams situation. And it's really Spo that is like they're in a battle in the play-in. Spo's like, yeah, I love it. This is what I live for. And I was like, you're such a sicko, man. Like, what are you talking about? As a fan and as someone who covers the team, I'm like, I'm stressed out. Spo's like, nah, I live for this. And you're just like, and Solomon, you know better than anybody. They always say we're not for everybody. And there are so many players that have either played here or wanted to play here. And I mean, Jared Dudley is very famous for saying, yeah, I wanted to play for them and I learned more about it. And he's like, no, that's not for me. And that's cool. But like, they're built for different kinds of people.
No, for sure. I think, you know, even for looking at my own self, I think I'm like too happy in a sense, you know, to be a part of that needle and that thread, and it's understandable. The type of player I am and the person I am, I can sit there and look at it and be like, yeah, I understand completely. You know, granted, it may have been different coming out of college, and then you kind of get that straight away. You kind of get that no nonsense from the jump. Not saying Indiana did that or any other places, but it's different of having that same accountability or coach. Like that's just separate that from any other franchise that you look at is that you have a coach that could be there when you start and be there when you leave, or and that's another comfortability thing. You know, you don't go to college. I didn't go to college and have a different coach. I didn't have a different coach in high school, and so even my AAU had the same coach for a long time. So that does make a difference. But it's really nice. It's really nice because you have guys like Gabe Vincent who uh, I had a chance to compete with and be around.
Did you
And,
guys play on? I don't. Was Gabe on the team when you were on the team?
hmm
He was.
Yeah, he was
hmm
he was in the bubble.
yeah,
Yeah, he was there.
and just play like it was every day. You know, we're playing pickup. You know, we're doing it. We have to, and to see them keep empowering him and put him in positions to be successful. You know, you look at last year's playoffs and being like, hey, we trust you. And even looking at the Kyle Lowry situation, Kyle Lowry being able to get up and cheer for Gabe as he puts on his career high and a much needed game three. And so that's the beautiful part about it, is getting guys to buy in because, you know, he'll put you in a position. You know, he'll definitely put you in a position.
Some you talk about like having it like the organization has like holds players to an accountability. Can you like give an example of that? Because I've heard a lot of guys like Bam has talked about that a lot. Gabe went on TNT the other day and yesterday, and he said that. Like, what does that mean when people say the organization holds us accountable? Like, because a lot of players say that, and I don't think maybe fans or other people understand what that means completely.
And then to also follow on what G's asking, because I've done a story before in the past about like how the Heat basically had that mandate where you have to be in world class shape, and they have the body fat test and all that. So I'm sure all that's also part of it too, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I'd say like it's the best friend you wish you had. You know, not the friend that you've known since you were kids, and you kind of let each other slide with things. And you know, over the course of 20 years, 30 years, you've done your best friend a disservice. You know, you let them slip a couple of times or make some silly mistakes that you knew you should have spoke up on, but you didn't want to because you thought the relationship would be sour. As opposed to that one person that keeps you in check and holds you accountable. When you say you want to do something, they're there, you know, on time, every time, you know, no slippage. And that's what it is. It's to be a professional. As stated, the most professional, hardest working, and your baseline is a lot different there than anywhere else. And so you're going to learn how to be a professional. You're going to learn how to work. You're going to always be ready. I mean, it's crazy just looking at Duncan and sitting there and being like, whenever Duncan gets some minutes, regardless, he's going to be ready. He's never going to be tired
Always.
or being like, oh, I'm not ready. All those guys, everybody and he's for Spo, he looks at it like, okay, you know, I don't have to work when I choose this person for this moment, whether it's 20 seconds or if I need you for a full half or to start and play 48. He feels confident knowing that person is in heat shape to his standards. That when he puts them in, he doesn't have to worry about trying to get them up to speed or you're ready to play right now. It's almost like it's 2K. Like it's just getting these guys ready to all be ready. And so there is a standard that I want to say that's probably been adopted by some teams in a sense. There's some teams that say that they want to do it, but they can't. But Miami's just like, we're gonna hold you accountable, and you're gonna hold us accountable. So it's gonna be a working relationship. And Pat's like, this is what I know, and this is how it goes, and there's no slippage. And so when you do something like that, and you have the coach, and you have a lot of guys in the front office that can kind of be like, this is what it is. Everybody knows exactly what it is.
Well, dude, that
So
was
to that,
dude,
ahead,
that was
go
like you know, in your playoff run, because in reality, like you were not like a big minute player kind of leading up, and then obviously like a lot of injuries happened, and all you know, Solomon Hill is guarding Anthony Davis on a switch, and we're just like, how did we end up here?
And that was work. I'm not gonna lie. That was
I felt so bad for you, dude.
for
I hated it
for
for you.
those minutes. But the crazy part about it is, you know, you understand why you do it. I want to say, Spo came to me and asked me just to play. And it's like, hey, I got like maybe 6 minutes. Like I just need 6 minutes from it. Like I just got a real rotation and I need 6 minutes. Like yeah, like what the fuck? Like of course. And so he's like, okay, I'm gonna have you do some extra stuff, like get you some extra work. Cool. And I had a chance to like fall in love with the process. I was getting real work. Like I was out. Like coach had me out there, not Spo, but it was cool to really just be like, we're getting good hard work. Like this is the work that's gonna allow you to play and be comfortable and not be out there gasping for air or feeling like your legs are wiggly. This is that my legs are wiggly work right now. And, now I feel better the next day when we hooping, playing, 1-on-1 or 3-on-3. That prepared me to be ready for whatever amount of time. Because I think some of the hardest things for athletes is to understand winning a championship is one of the most mentally challenging and physical things that you have to do because it may not be in the way that you wanted to win a championship. There's only like maybe like a handful of guys in history that have won championships in ways that they wanted to win. Everybody else, like that dream was, oh, you're going to be the best player on the team and win it. It's like, no. If this is the way to win a championship, if coach comes to me and says, hey, are you too good for 6 minutes to help your team win? Like, you have to make a decision of how you're going to do it. Are you ready for that when he comes to you? Or you got to play catch up? And so it was cool to have that talk with him, have a plan that was in place so that I can find any type of success that was success for the team. And so that was really cool to be a part of something outside of myself that led to what I've always wanted, is to compete for a championship. And that trust in him led to the trust in the organization, led to me being able to feel like I'm going to go out here and impact the game the best way that I can.
That's so we're here on the eve of, they're one game away from the finals. And to put this into like some historical context for the audience, not a lot of teams have made finals in 3 consecutive decades. I believe it's the Lakers, the Celtics, and the Spurs are the only teams to do that. To kind of put into perspective what this group is doing. Spo, this is the second core that he's done it with in the Riley era. Obviously the third after Dwayne, Shaq, the big three, and now the Jimmy Bam build. They were left for dead they have a negative point differential on the year in the regular season. They're really not a real 8 seed. They're really a 7 seed that lost a playing game to Atlanta in as emphatic a fashion as I could remember. I mean, a lot of us were watching that game. It was the most unrecognizable they had maybe looked all year. And they lost to Detroit at home without Cade Cunningham, a very shorthanded, very young Pistons team. So this team had gone through ups and downs, and they're at a point where they are thoroughly dominating the number 2 seed. They dominated the number 1 seed. Even when Giannis played in fourth quarters, Miami absolutely won those games and took those away from Milwaukee. It wasn't, a lot of people said a Milwaukee collapse, but that was a Miami Heat win. It was Jimmy Butler and Bam's defense and Kyle Lowry making play after damn play in the fourth quarter. God, he must be so annoying to play against, but I love him. He's my favorite player, Solomon. You experience this, like you watch this and you say, like, how do you experience this run? Because every day we do a post-game show after a game, and I get up on camera, and I'm looking at the camera in a daze saying, I have no idea how this is happening. They are playing at a level. It's like everybody is playing the best version of themselves every night, and they all summoned it at the same time. And I have no explanation for any of it.
Yeah, you kind of have to just be ready for the moment. And, Miami Heat shape or the Heat culture is going to make sure that you're able to take advantage of that moment. And when you dial in on some of the guys that are starving and hungry, Caleb Martin, you can just see on Twitter some of the backtrack and stuff of he was waived last year, I believe. And, the hunger of, I want to hoop. And being in a position where athletic wing that can defend, hit some spot up shots, man, you can get a spot over here. And he made, he won the trust of Jimmy. And you have these guys in a position where they maximize the opportunity and their matchups. This is the time where it's almost like fresh legs for those guys because, you're going one city, you're going here, you're going there. And now you're in the best shape of your lives to play at the moments of when it matters most. And it's really cool because Jimmy gets better. He gets better as the year goes on. As the deeper you get to the playoffs, and you have to understand that as a teammate. You know that. Kyle Lowry knows that. Kyle Lowry is probably thinking the same thing. Wow, I just want to get in the playoffs. Just let me get in the playoffs, and I can be me. And Bam is becoming this defensive anchor that just you can keep underrating them. Like just keep them as far as you want to is underrated, and they'll keep chugging along, winning games. And I think Miami is excited, has always been excited about playing in the playoffs because this is when you show heat shape. You don't really show heat shape if you're out of the playoffs in April, and it's like, no, we're going to show you as far as we can go, as deep as we can go, that we're always going to be in shape and we're going to be ready for the moment. And some of those guys, Max Strus, comfortable, Caleb Martin, comfortable, uh, you know, as far as their ability to just go out there and trust themselves. It has nothing to do just with the game or one game. Is that they're buying in. They're all playing for one another. It may not be the next, and that's the thing that's cool about them is because they're all okay with one guy going off or two guys going off. Now, if they can all get involved, it just makes them happier. But they know their role. Their first role is to defend at a high level, run the court, and do what Spo kind of instructs them to do.
But like, I get that, but also like Caleb Martin is like low key Paul George right now, which is crazy. you like, you feel me? Like, man is, and we know that he has the ability to like shoot the ball and attack a closeout. Have you seen the finishes? The Euro step, changing hands, the up and unders. I'm the John Wall meme with Bradley Beal. I ain't never ever seen you act like this before. Like,
his efficiency is over 70%.
Yeah,
or something.
Yeah, I saw that.
Ridiculous.
He's shooting over 70% from two, and it's just like, I know that some of it's culture, but some of it's like these guys have tapped into something that, Frank, like I
opportunity,
yeah, like,
opportunity. It's crazy to say. Talking to I was with my trainer, with I was telling. I thought the key to this series was Caleb Martin. I was like, because you got with Caleb Martin.
Oh, okay.
Of being, his ability to be the difference maker in the sense of like about Bruce Brown and like their ability to be like, okay, it's needed. You can kind of tab Jimmy's going to have a good game. You can kind of tab that maybe Kyle Lowry's going to come off the bench and be super effective. Bam's going to have a great game. But now you get to the point where if these guys are comfortable, they make a world of difference. And his ability to not have to just rely on the jumper. If he's feeling good from two, the jumper is the icing on the cake. If he's like in transition, he's trying to get to his first thought. Looks like he's trying to get to the rim, and then he'll settle for a finger roll. But the defender knows that. The defender knows I have to make a decision, because he's in heat shape. He can dunk this. Like he can really come down and dunk this. So I need to be smart and wise with this decision because he's attacking the rim feeling good, and then he knows too, because I'm dunking, somebody's gonna try to cut me off. Bam, I make the one more. Now we got this thing moving and he did his job. And that's opportunity. I think there's a lot of guys in the NBA that, if given the opportunity, I think they can play high level basketball, but they're playing it from a team's perspective. And I think I think people need to buy into players and not the numbers, not the past, not what people didn't accomplish in high school or college, because this is where you want to make your name. It's the NBA. It doesn't matter about what you did prior. It doesn't matter about what accomplishments. It's about just playing the game of basketball and winning games. And people get caught. I mean, I saw something the other day. It was like people are more like there's a certain amount of NBA fans that are more intrigued and excited about NBA titles and names and those as opposed to the game itself. Like we should just respect and love the game as it's being played and the players that are playing.
So, man, I don't feel like a lot of people be loving the game right now, Solomon. They're complaining about Heat Nuggets in the finals. Twitter's complaining about the ratings, that they can't watch the Lakers and the Celtics. These people don't love hoops, man. They don't love hoops. They don't want to watch Jimmy. They don't want to watch Jokic. It's sad times.
That's it. You got.
Huh?
I thought you
Oh, yeah, I got a
Oh,
question.
go, Brian, yeah.
I don't know how much you were able to be around all the guys in the bubble in terms of like their preparedness behind the scenes. Obviously, there were stories about like Jimmy bouncing his basketballs in his room, just doing as much work as he could to, just get in shape for before you guys were able to start practicing in some of those open courts at, I guess, the hotels in Disney. Mm-hmm. So I just take you back to that time in memory of the bubble, kind of like a parallel to like the situation that the Heat are in now, one game away from the finals. Are there any stories off the court or even on the court that kind of can give a good idea in terms of the minds of both Jimmy Butler and Eric Spoelstra and their just will to win? Because right now,
or Bam,
Jimmy Butler's still trying to get in Bam too as well. They're trying for Jimmy. Like he's spoken a bunch of times. Like he doesn't really want anything more than like a championship ring at this point in his career. Like he hasn't won at any level of his career. dating back to high school, college, and now JUCO as well, Marquette, and now he's in the NBA. He basically has said like a million times in his interviews, like that's the one thing he really wants to put on in his career, because he wants to basically say that he was one of the best players in the NBA and he was able to win a championship ring. So like just taking back to their other stories where that kind of like just that idea of those guys wanting it all more than anything else in the world, where that kind of shines through the most.
It's the one thing I did. I think one of the more like out of body experiences that I have with Miami Heat is that I think once you just get around Jimmy in a game, you get around him, competitively, you get around Bam. These are guys that make it, and then Spo. It's easy to accept that we can win, and so it doesn't matter what the score is. It doesn't matter what the record is at some point in time, whenever. It doesn't matter. We can. It's a feeling that we can win. Like, come on, like, we got this. And in the bubble, it only like multiplied that because we were secluded to this one spot where we're right here. And the way that Miami Heat do things, we're always right here. It doesn't matter if we're in Miami or in this bubble. Now we get a situation where we can maximize all opportunity. The filming is efficient, training is efficient. We can kind of get in here a little bit longer, or it's, less travel and wear and tear on the body. There's a lot of aspects that came into being capitalized in the bubble. And you see that, when you talk about teams that have been back to the finals. This is a team that is still that has been good, has matched up really well with some of the best players in the NBA. And so it's not really a story. It's more about the feeling. It's about, being secluded in this bubble, but you're doing it with some of the best players in the world, not by name or by work, by actual work. Like when you're going to work and you're like, this guy is really good. You see Tyler Herro before, and you're like, this guy can really score the ball. You look at Jimmy, he's like, he's giving everything. He's doing everything. Bam gets hurt, and there's a feeling just like the same feeling Miami fans have is like Bam can defend anybody. So people outside are downplaying this injury, but internally we know that he's an anchor on defense. He is a problem. He can switch anybody on the court, and we trust him. I mean, we saw the block on Jason Tatum in the ball. And so it still gave us a feeling that we could win, regardless, even with Bam out. And that's a feeling that it takes over you. It allows you to go out there and think outside of yourself because you can win. And that's really cool. I think that just having that feeling of I'm here for something. A lot of people went into the bubble and were there just because they wanted, for other reasons. And I respect every reason that they were there. But Miami Heat, you put that gear on, that's the story. We're here, Spo looked you in the eyes for the first day and he's like, we're here to win.
I guess where I'm going with the question mostly is like we saw obviously how Jimmy played in the finals when you guys were basically really injured with both Goran and Bam going out pretty much after game one or during game one. And he basically willed you guys to 2 wins. So you guys were basically, you had it to game 6, thinking maybe you guys could push it to a game 7. Obviously, didn't happen, but just thinking back to that, like you can imagine that Jimmy has now 1 win away going back to the finals, and he probably wants to get that job done that he didn't get a chance to with a team that's now healthy going into the finals again. So, and especially if they get Tyler back, like they're going to be as healthy as they've been all season. So I kind of just want to like imagine like what is Jimmy going through? Do you think he's going through in his head like as he's entering hopefully this next series and this next finals? Like, are we going to see a triple-double 40-point game? Because we haven't seen that since the Bucks series. And if some Heat fans have been saying like he's saving it up for the finals.
They haven't needed it, Brian. They're Caleb Barnes, Paul George.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. Like we haven't even seen him basically go Super Saiyan again since then.
Gabe Vince is pulling up from the logo. Like what?
And that's the thing. It's not about. I think Jimmy's game is built around his passion for the game. It's more of a like, what do you need tonight? Like, what do you need from me? Do I need to shoot less because Max is about to get hot or somebody, Duncan's hot? If you need to go get 12 rebounds and I need to get, 17 points, but 12 of them in the fourth, I'll do that. And so it's Jimmy's just a guy that loves the game of basketball, loves competing at a high level. You can't kind of rate the way he plays the game. He's a dog competitively,
Pure hooper.
and so pure hooper. That's it. You can put him somewhere, anywhere, and he's going to hoop. And so it's you can't. I think you just got to be ready for. I think the most consistent is the defense. That's where it shines the most. Everything else is kind of like, hey, we're gonna figure it out collectively, and it's good because everybody's fired. You don't want that to wear on Jimmy. Not saying that he can't do that, and even at this moment, they're thinking about the next game. They're not thinking about the finals. Jimmy's not thinking about the finals. Spo, I don't even think he's even thought about it.
About that, but I believe you. I 100% believe that there has not been a single word mentioned about Denver or.
Oh no, not at all.
It's a Kobe Bryant. Job's not finished.
No, it's not, and that's why I say that's that feeling
that's real.
It's of willing, So when you really feel like you can win, it's almost like you're the person in the room, and if you're thinking that, you're the only one feeling like that. You're the only one that's like, oh, we got to go to the finals, because everybody is like, you didn't expect to be here. Like, it's almost surprising to you that we're in this position because we go at it day by day. It's like, no, the job is not finished. Like, we're not excited. We got to get this win. Anything can happen. Let's go get this W, because you don't want to be the first person on the other side of history. So it's a real sense of Spo's not thinking about it. You don't want to read about it. You want to hear about it. He's thinking about, what are they going to do next? What is their counter to what they did? What are the good things about what we got? What are the things that Boston thought they had? He's thinking strictly about them because of the way the NBA Finals is set up, is that he believes in his ability to, if that's the case, and it may be the next round, he's prepared to do that because of his habits, thinking about the day ahead. So he's not worried about it. Jimmy's not worried about it. I don't think anybody in that locker room is thinking about that, especially with UD still in New Jersey. They're worried about the next game.
Okay,
for sure.
So a couple things as we kind of transition to get out of here. First, I wanted to kind of highlight something you said about Jimmy will do whatever it takes, whatever, if they need him to do, whatever role he needs to play. Yesterday, Miami did a fantastic job of attacking switches, and Jimmy had been very comfortable on Derek White, even dating back to last postseason. Derek's a great defender, but he's just not big and strong enough for Jimmy. The Boston is sending help from the weak side constantly. That has not been something that they wavered on, and Jimmy is making that pass. They sometimes have Smart kind of splitting the difference between the guy on the wing and the guy at the corner. Now Caleb's the guy in the corner, and he's been fantastic at attacking closeouts. So just credit to Miami for last postseason, that was PJ Tucker in the corner, and PJ doesn't have the foot speed that Caleb does, and Robert Williams just vacating PJ Tucker. And PJ shot well in that series, but it's just, wasn't enough to kind of contend with the way they were containing roles and stuff. So wanted to kind of highlight that and shout out Coach Heat's coaching staff and players, and kind of transition to our last thing I wanted to get to you before I wanted to ask you a couple goofy questions. But Tyler Herro, kind of looming, he broke his hand, which unfortunate that he broke his hand on a hustle play. Man went for a loose ball. That's the kind of shit that you love to see. And I know the Heat are sickos and love that too. And it was just a freak injury where he broke his hand going for a loose ball. That was in game one, basically in the second quarter of game one of the whole playoffs.
Right before halftime.
Yeah, right before
literally
halftime.
Seconds before halftime.
And so, Herro, I saw that there's some reporting that he's progressing pretty well, that he got the cast off or the brace off his hand. It's a shooting hand injury. Not to get ahead of ourselves, but in the event that they are able to close this series out and they get to play in the finals starting June 1st, because we don't know if Tyler's going to be ready or not. We're speculating. We're not doctors. We don't know. But if there's an event where Tyler's ready by game 3 or 4 or something, Solomon, how difficult is it to reincorporate a guy like him? Because he's not just like a movement shooter 3-and-D guy. He's a pick and roll threat this year who was fantastic at initiating offense as a ball handler, of not just a shooter, but like I said, a creator. His synergy with Bam and pick and roll was fantastic. Really got to kind of that snake dribble into that little pull up that he got so good at. One really kind of his floater game, all that stuff. How difficult is that? Because you don't play for 2 months and then you get dropped in to the NBA Finals at the highest level of basketball. I don't even know how you even approach that and how that must feel for like a player. You're like a accomplished player. Like what's that like reincorporating after missing that much time?
I think that's it's based on each player, uh, especially with a guy like Tyler Hero. And uh, he, I think if he feels comfortable and he believes in his ability, and they see that, and they feel like collectively that he's ready to go, I don't see why not. And I think if Spo elects to play him and they all come and he's available, I'm not gonna say play him, but he's
Yeah.
available. I think that they'll all have a conversation as to how do we win this game. It's that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to win the next game, and so um, if he's available, then that means that he's passed the protocol in which they would believe that he's ready to play. And so, everybody thinks it's tricky work because of the current success and whatnot. But I believe that Tyler's a team player. He's a team first player, and I think he'll be just another weapon that can be used however Spo sees fit. And I don't think that would ever be an issue. Not with the guys, the young core that you have now is um, they when I was there, and with Bam being there, with Jimmy being there, it's always been a sense of a team. It's a team sport, and so when Tyler was healthy, he did his role, he did his job, and now somebody has the ability to play some minutes, and I'm pretty sure he's just excited for them as they would be for him if he was doing the same things in the same roles. So I think if he's healthy, and I think the initial reports when he did break it was they had to make it to the NBA Finals. It's crazy how a lot of a lot of people were laughing at that comment that they said by the NBA Finals. But I think he looks forward to that. I think he looks forward to trying to be able to go out there and not put themselves in harm's way, but put themselves in the ability to help the team. And I think that'll be a huge boost, not just for the team, but for the guys as well. I think that'd be dope for sure.
You actually brought up something I just remember. Like, he had a pretty interesting quote right after his injury where he was because he played really well that game one against Milwaukee. I think he was like one of the highest plus minuses on the
He
team
was shredding their drop
that day. And he was like, yeah, he was basically on pace for like a 30-point game. I just think like he had basically mentioned how Heat fans, especially the way he had played his last two postseasons, don't really care much about his regular season success as much as they kind of want him to see it do it again in the playoffs. Because basically since that game 4, game 5 against Boston in the bubble, where he went off in that 38, 36 point scoring run, like he basically wants to go out and prove that he can be a playoff postseason 16 win player. And I feel like this is going to be the maximum opportunity for him to be able to showcase that on the biggest stage. And I think if he gets the opportunity, I feel like personally, I think they should play him because I feel like he will give them something that they haven't needed it yet entering the finals. But I feel like going into that matchup, if they do play the Nuggets or Lakers, he's going to give them either that one win or that 2 wins they need in order to win the title.
Yeah, with wanting in respect to the Celtics and the series currently, I think
So we're prefacing it by saying in the event.
In the event.
In the event.
God
In the event.
willing.
I'm sorry.
God willing.
You always want to be healthy. I think that's 100% proven for every team is that you always want to be healthy. And I think he has to disassociate himself from fan expectations to team expectations as well. Is that the team wants you to be successful and we win. And if that means that you score 29, you score 18, it doesn't matter. We win games, and you're seeing that now with it's a collective unit. You can have it's okay to not have a 35-point game or 28-point game, and still have a huge impact. He can make big shots, crunch time, clutch spots and clutch shots, and being able to come off the pick and roll and get Bam. He does a good job of getting Bam involved, and so it kind of keeping it from personal and keeping it about the team. I think he comes back and he can always have an impact. He can score. He knows the offense, just as much as anybody else, and can get hot. And hopefully he can add something to his game that he sees from the sideline at this moment and has an appreciation for. Okay, I'm learning, because that's always you always want to take it as a way to learn. Him being able to sit there kind of slows the game down for him. He sees what works. He sees how, okay, how are they guarding guys out there that would be like me? Okay, now I get a different perspective for the game. And so you always want a guy healthy. You always want to be healthy as a team. And I'd love to see Tyler out there in the big moments. I think he wants that. I saw Bam, miss out on playing in the finals, and he wanted to be out there. He wanted to be healthy. And so that's always that tough notion of you want to play, but you also want to be healthy enough to be able to showcase, some type of full extent, because you don't want to go out there and put yourself in a position where, you don't meet somebody's expectations, and now it's, are you healthy enough, or are you not healthy, or, just want to win the game. Win the game.
I think the question gets tough, Solomon, because obviously he started for them for so long, and because he's a ball handler, and he's I think it complicates, because you don't want to, obviously they've had a lot of success with a lot of their off-ball movement. I mean, they've been moving relentlessly without the ball, whether it's screening, cutting, hammer screen here, all their little secondary actions. They'll run a pick and roll on one side, and they'll run like a two-man action on the weak side of the ball, and they're moving and they're grooving and they're cutting, and then the bench comes in.
They're
and
adding variations to their dribble handoff now with Duncan and Bam that we haven't seen in a few.
Oh yeah, Lob Father Duncan. You kidding me? Pick and roll handler Duncan Robinson joining Max Strus. It's pick and roll handler. So I guess
he's been waiting. I'm not gonna. Hey, Duncan's been waiting. Duncan's been waiting to handle the rock a little bit, man.
I remember you had that, didn't you?
Yeah, he had to show us some old highlight.
I heard a story that he used to play. They used to play like 2-on-2. It would be like Duncan and I forgot who else against like James Johnson and I think Bam or something. And I was like, who the hell Duncan guarding there? Like, what are you doing to my man? But apparently he held up. And
Duncan holds up, man. He can really hoop, and it's really good to just see his work. Him just standing in the trenches and just being available. That's another guy that we talk about. Being ready. And, we can have off nights. You can shoot certain ways. Yeah, okay, but I'm gonna always be ready. And
I'm so happy for him, man.
He shot over 50% in fourth quarters in his entire postseason career.
Do you know that
past the Heat record also for most 3-pointers made by a Heat player yesterday?
Duncan has a higher playoff 3-point percentage than Ray Allen in a Heat uniform.
That's insane. That's insane.
Ray Allen, bro.
But what the thing that I love the most is that you can tell that to Duncan, and he'll shake his head and just be like, yeah, whatever, bro, like whatever, man. But everybody trying to hear all that. Like he's really locked into wanting. Like he feels like my head coach in high school used to be like, you ain't shit. Like tell yourself that sometime. Like if you ever get too comfortable, just be like, you ain't shit. And so Duncan kind of carried around that. It doesn't matter if he breaks all the records. He'll always just be like, it's not enough. Like it's whatever. Like it's not enough. Like I gotta go harder. And you see why, like I look at him, and that's why I say, like, maybe I'm too happy to be in a Heat uniform, because I'll see Duncan and I'm like, dog, do you know, like you're statistically, like you're one of the best shooters ever, like ever. Like if you were to just like people, they want to do records and all time makes. I'm like, but when you look, when the chips are on the table and we're in the playoffs and people are they're running double teams after you, they're blitzing you when you come up the screen.
Dude, he'll come off a handoff and they send two every time, and I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, but you know what? But that's what makes him him, is that he'll really believe like it, and be maniacal about his work habits. Get there first, shoot. Don't let him play. He'll shoot. Go super hard. But he believes that every day. He works hard at his craft every day. And you can't sit there and be like, it's just out of nowhere. Like, no, if you look at it, don't mistake the utility for his ability. Just because he's not utilized as much, he's utilized when he's needed, and he's very effective. And I think that's a credit to Spo. It's like, yeah, you may not be playing as much as you want or whatever, but when I use you, and when it's time that you're shooting, what you said, 60%? What is he shooting in the playoffs?
I'm not sure what it is this season. I think it's at 44% for the playoffs this year, but his fourth quarter efficiency is insane. It's over 50%.
There it is.
It's 50% entering the last game. Obviously, he went nuclear again last night, so it's over 50% at this point. Yeah, and just what's even more insane is like the Heat can rely on him, but then they have guys like Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin. All these guys are shooting way above their regular season stats.
And Jimmy.
Entering it. And Jimmy too. Like, I don't understand that either. How's Jimmy become such a great 3-point shooter in the playoffs?
It's such a troll move.
It's bro. It's really I think it's the beauty in what you got. It's the things that I wish that I kind of could know about old school players. That that personality, not just oh, you don't know him because he didn't win a ring or he wasn't all glorified with all these all NBAs. Or no, there's players like Jimmy that just kind of embody what it means to be a great basketball player, and so he likes that moment. He's a guy that really I'm stepping up in the moment where I'm not. I'm not afraid of it. I love this. Like we finally get to play for everything. You kind of got that feeling from Kawhi. Kawhi is like, man, this regular season stuff is. You want me to go out there and play 82 and grind it out and get every award? Like
watching the games are tiring. Doing these post game shows and pods every day for the last 3 years that we've been doing daily pods. It's exhausting. So I can't imagine what it is being on the court.
Or being one of them. Just being one of them with those guys that are fiends for the playoffs, and it's proven. And some guys can be like, "Oh, I'm saving for the playoffs," but there's guys that are statistically proven that they get better in the playoffs, and so there's appreciation for them. Granted, they are giving out awards now for the playoffs, but there is appreciation for when it matters most. You have guys step up, and you love that because this is why people are made fans. It's not for the regular season; it's because they want to. Now people want to talk mess about their team being the last one or being a champion, and that has validity. So I think that's really. When you say Jimmy wants to win this, he's not somebody that just isn't won and somebody's going to be like, oh, that guy's not a winner. He's like, no, I've done that at a sacrifice to try to get a big one, And so I love watching hoops, because everybody is there for a reason. And it's really good to see a guy like Jimmy or any of the guys. You can go down the list. I mean, Cody Zeller, regardless of whatever, he's there. Showing up and just going
those
out
minutes
there
are a ride, though, Solomon. They're a ride.
Huh?
Those minutes are a ride. The Zeller minutes, I love Cody. I'm a big Cody guy. But let me tell you, when Cody checks in, I'm scared for the defense. They go in the zone. I was like, please, Lord, Jimmy at the nail, make magic happen. Help this man.
He's trying to. It's like Cody's trying to fit into the culture. Cody's like, I know I'm like the highest pick here, but how do I get some dog in me? Do I have to go out and? But I feel like if they got in a fight, if something happened, Cody got
Julius Randle confrontation. That was great
with him and Randle. He got right,
and that's why you take that you take him and you be like, hey man, we give you some of this coaching. Like you're gonna have to we're gonna roll with what you roll with, and you're gonna roll with us. So it's gonna be we giving something happens. You got to be one of the first ones, but it's cool to see guys just kind of go out there and just lay their bodies on the line and just get dirty. And so, yeah, it's really cool, man. I really like the roster and the makeup of it. I'm definitely excited for this UD experience to continue on, especially with the next game. And what was the phrase we were using?
Which one?
If they win, in the case that they win, and move on to the next.
In the event, yeah.
Yes. So.
God's win. All right, Solomon. I know you got to go. I want to ask you a couple listener questions. You can give quick answers. The people wanted to hear from you. Frankie G in chat, one of our co-hosts, asked, Solomon, a lot of talk has been about vets and their value in the locker room all year. Could you talk a little bit on that and what guys like UD and other vets you played with to show you the ropes to stick around? I kind of think that's important too, because I know that you're not as privy to the sewage that he's Heat Twitter at times, but like people were like mad that UD was taking a roster spot, and they're like, this dude is wasting a spot that we could use on a guy who can play like real minutes. And I don't think people understand. I see you smiling. I don't think people understand the value and the knowledge that a man like that brings into a locker room.
Well, he can play. Yeah, no. He's admitted so many times in interviews.
I watched the game against Orlando. I was there.
He plays pickup every game.
One against Jimmy.
How much shit does he talk?
And so it's
how much shit does he talk playing pickup? I can't imagine that.
Oh no, playing pickup. he's playing pickup. He's not talking shit playing pickup. I think it's because he really like the OG and we hooping. It's more like if you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing, he kind of like, hey, you know, hey, we out here playing pickup, but you ain't gonna be doing that in the game.
Yeah.
But um,
That's
you
so
know,
funny, dude.
uh,
I don't want to see you
but
pull
it's
up from
needed.
there.
But it's funny. 'Cause I laugh because you said we. It's like, oh, we don't need him on our team or taking up a roster spot, and it it's a situation. Go to the door, or I'll be up there in a second. So it's a situation where it's needed. Men are needed. You need the league is getting younger, and you're losing examples of how to do things. I think the Miami Heat were understandable to that prior to a lot of teams and created something in a system that some teams may try to take advantage of. And I think that they probably should. I think I had a talk with an old teammate of mine, and he was wondering why Vince Carter was still on the roster. It was like, man, it's a young guy out there that need opportunity, maybe need something. But I'm like, man, I'm not. Ain't nobody paying a ticket to watch this young guy, show up. They want to see Vince, or it's the ability that Vince has. He has some ability to talk to somebody and make some movements. Possibly, I wasn't on the team, but with UD and being in there, you know, he is an OG. He shows you I'm doing it. Everybody's doing it. Like we're not. Nobody gets a buddy pass. Nobody he's been there for years. He's established. He's a winner. And granted, not all OGs can be winners. And so I think that his position is one that is needed in the NBA at a major level. I don't know if it's creating a new roster role. I don't know what it is. I do like the fact that he's a player and it's not some type of handicapped role. And I feel like it's going to be missed. It's very appreciated as a player that's younger. Most of his players are going to be younger, but guys need that. You need somebody to kind of show you the ropes. You need somebody, and that has that player mentality and get in the trenches with you, and that's the difference. We like that in today's NBA, and I'm not going to blame that for anybody's shortcomings or decisions made. But you look at the NBA back in the day in the '90s, or it was like 1/3 of it was guys over the age of 29 to 30, and today it's just trending down the south. Now, I love the young guys. They're super talented and explosive. You get the kid coming over from overseas, and you have 19-year-olds and 18-year-olds. The big ticket. We just celebrated the big ticket's birthday, and he came right out of high school. And so there's a balance that I think that there's needed. But that UD's role is not. I don't think it can be replicated. I don't think you can duplicate that even if you try, because he's been in the Miami Heat jersey since the beginning of his career. So I think he's one example that will stand the test of time, and I don't think there'll be anybody like him.
Thank you for setting you straight, Solomon. I'm sick and tired of UD slander out here. It's
Yeah, man. That's baseline. That's kind of like the baseline level of thinking of, oh man, we're gonna solve it by getting some, trading him in or giving his roster spot to who. If you're not gonna give his roster spot to like Kevin Durant or something like that,
Exactly.
I'm confused as to what's about to happen.
Like I don't want to obviously Gabe Vincent was a 15th man at some point. You know what I mean? So it's like all those guys have a value, but there's a value as well. I mean, they have 14 other spots. You know what I mean? It's not like
Plus the two ways now.
Yeah, there's also you get
Not
two
to have
ways
three
and all
two-way
that
contracts
stuff.
in
So
the next CBA.
the league has done a good job of kind of allowing veterans to stay on the team, also have young guys. So Solomon, I know you got to get out of here. You've given us more than enough time. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, you joining us and just shooting the shit, man. Love it. Got to ask you on the way out, any anime that you're watching lately? I gave you a list last time you were in the bubble. Or any new shows on the radar?
Man, I might have to come back for that one. It's been I've been thirsting over some stuff. I've been what was the last thing that I just read? I'm reading Blue Lock.
Oh, I
like Blue Lock.
Tell me, is Jimmy not Blue Lock right now? Is Jimmy not
locked in, bro?
Dude,
Locked in, trying to be the best. Yeah. Getting that dog. Hey, that's one place I had to ask myself, like, would I go here? Like, if it was like some heat, I'd definitely go here. Like be surrounded by the best of the best and coming out on top.
Heat culture,
that's heat, bro. It's heat for sure.
Yeah,
We're gonna get the best
I
out
don't
of
even
you.
watch anime, but
Brian, you don't
I'm
understand. It's
yeah.
batshit crazy. They take all the best soccer players in Japan and they lock them in a compound and they basically make each other play
It's like
against
the
each
Hunger
other
Games.
in like these
Yeah.
ridiculous
Yeah.
high stakes matches. And there's like, you know, you get cut if you like lose, and then like the bottom one loses and the top 4 go up. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. It's awesome.
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
so
And then you got the guys with the names, you know, that's like already gifted, and then you have these guys coming out of nowhere that just love that deep love for the game, competitive. And so no, I think that's like the last thing in my mind. I've been reading a couple, but I probably have to double back to talk about those.
Well, no,
We'll do it.
I'm so glad. Blue Lock, I just started. I haven't read it. I'm gonna pick up the manga, but I just watched that.
Oh yeah, I be reading.
So
I watch the anime and be thirsty for the storyline, so I'll go and read.
Chiguri's my guy, dude. I love him. Oh, and I love Baru, the king.
Yeah,
The king. Listen, you
I don't
gotta
know his
respect
names.
my man.
like it's cut.
Oh, dude,
It's cut.
the
Great.
most anime cut I've ever seen. All those dudes have wild ass hair. Solomon, thank you so much for joining us, man. I appreciate it infinitely. Thank you. I know the audience in chat has been popping. They love you. They're so happy to just see you around and talk Heat. You know, you're a lifer, at least around these parts. So thank you so much, man.
Man, I appreciate y'all having me. Y'all stay safe.
You too, man. Take care.
Peace.
And that was Solomon Hill. Brian, well, we have a couple seconds. Shout out to Solomon. He had to go. But I want to talk a little bit about kind of where we are, because I don't think I've been listening. Listen, I listened to Sad Bill Simmons today.
I did too. It wasn't as sad as I thought it would be. I know he
He-
talked about like blowing up to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Like, I mean, is that really gonna happen? Well, I guess we'll see.
Well, I mean, just the idea of like people are eulogizing the teams in the Heat's wake,
Yeah.
and to me,
Yeah.
I don't.
Zach Lowe had a whole show about Bobby Marks talking about how he didn't feel entering the series that they needed to get rid of Joe Mazzulla, but now it feels like he's the scapegoat.
Dog, they have absolutely.
They just gave that guy an extension.
I want to listen. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to say I believed in this team the entire year, because that's not true. Because when they lost to Dallas in January, they had gotten a win streak going.
God, I remember that. I remember
So
that.
Miami had gotten kind of healthy. They won like 4 games, and they were going into Dallas. It was like Luka was playing really, really well. And it was like, okay, you're on ESPN. It's a Friday game, national TV game against an MVP candidate. The Mavs are not a juggernaut, but like they're a good team at this point. They were not the Mavericks that fell apart. They were still in like the 5th, 4th, 6th spot in the West. They were a good team. And I said, if Miami's a good team, they go into the American Airlines Arena and they fucking beat Dallas. Because that's what good teams do. Good teams go into that building against that kind of competition on a national TV game, and you show people we are fucking back, right? And they didn't. They
got
lost.
blown out.
They got blown out. Luka was dancing what Jimmy's doing to the Celtics. That's what Luka was doing. Luka's jiggly ass was running up and down the court, and they could not stop that guy, and they got absolutely crushed. And in that moment, I was like, this is over. And that was my breaking point for the team. And of course, they lost to Detroit at home without Cade Cunningham. They had countless losses to Orlando and Charlotte and all these like
the Charlotte
teams
ones for me. That was it for me. The Charlotte
at
ones.
home. You know, on the road, they were like bad at times. They were like, they just would constantly be like, what the fuck? Are you trying to be serious? They wanted to get out of the play-in. They could not catch Brooklyn. They had a game at home against the Nets in which they were up double digits at halftime. Basically, if they win that game, very likely they secure the sixth spot and they get out of the play-in. They could not win that game. And to go from those instances where we have I dejected from them. I'm like, they're going to, and at that point, you're just like, can we get a Boston 2-7 matchup where like maybe you push them a little bit to 6 games and you feel good about yourself going into the offseason and find out what you have in Gabe Vincent and Max and make a decision? Then they lose the Atlanta game.
And then they lose the Atlanta.
They lose the Atlanta game, and Atlanta kind of realized everybody's worst fear. They're too small. Look at that. They got crushed on the boards. He had no answer to this pick and roll. They could not score a fucking lick against a bad defense. I mean, they didn't even. I mean, they just could not score even with Trae Young as a big target out there, Brian. They play Chicago, who's not that good, and they barely make it out alive when Max Strus has to go bananas and Jimmy has to go bananas in the fourth quarter. And I remember at the end of that game, at the Chicago game, Alf is really happy because he's like, oh, that was a fun game. And I'm like, how can I be happy about beating the fucking 9 seed? How? Explain to me, how am I supposed to feel good that they needed that at home against the 9th seed? And to go from all that to absolutely dominating Milwaukee, to absolutely dominating New York. That was never a series. I don't care what any Knicks fan wants to say. They were never down that series. That was never a series. Miami did not lose a single home game, and they almost stole one in your building without Jimmy Butler. That series was not fucking close. And to be up 3-0 against Boston, to run them out of your fucking gym and their gym twice is absolutely fucking mind-bending that they are all doing this, that they are all the best versions of themselves, that Brian, Jimmy and Bam never could have a good game together. And now everybody's having good games together.
I was going to say, like, they're having these great historic comebacks on top of all of this, but like, they're having wins now where everybody's contributing. It's not just Jimmy Butler going haywire in the first round. No, we're getting games where Bam's going off now. We're getting games where Gabe Vincent's going off now. We're getting games where Caleb Martin's going off. We had a fucking Kyle Lowry game not too long ago. And like everybody is basically coming through.
Not too long ago.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And we're having basically so many different guys step up in different moments. And to me, that separates this team from the team that made it one game away from the East Conference from the finals last season, because it really didn't feel like that during that series. That series basically was, hey, Jimmy, go off for 40, 50 points almost and win us this game. He did it about twice in that series. And then Bam won you that third game. I think that was the game that Jimmy was also out at in Boston. And then they're basically one shot away. This series, the way it's playing out, where was this team last year? I know they were hurt, but like all the guys on this team were not shooting the way they were shooting.
Max
now.
was hurt, Kyle was hurt, PJ, Caleb was also kind of. Remember, that's the other thing we haven't talked about. Caleb last year, after the Achilles, he barely played. He was not dunking. He was not doing any of what he's doing right now.
Yeah,
he is healthy. True. He is springy. He is athletic again. He is a different guy. And it's just, man.
Well, to me, the only way I can kind of come up with an explanation, obviously, like Miami's all about the culture, as Solomon Hill was talking about. They prepare for these moments, and they play the guys when they feel like they need them on the court. And when given the opportunity, they show up most of the time. And I think the way I kind of feel like is they're playing the teams that they feel like, they have a personal vendetta against because they have some sort of history against them, whether they knocked them out in the playoffs, just rivalries established over decades, especially with Pat Riley leaving, New York to come to Miami. And then now we're seeing basically Miami, as Jimmy Butler had mentioned in his press conference almost a year to this date, where he said, we're going to have a chance to come back and we're going to basically get back to the same exact moment. He didn't even say they were going to play Boston, but he kind of felt like he mentioned we're going to play Boston again in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then we're going to take it and win it and advance basically where he should have last season. And honestly, cannot imagine Heat fans feeling like they're this close away from going back to the championship, almost winning a title, because we're going to see who this matchup is, hopefully maybe later today, depending on the outcome. But like, It's hard to believe that this Heat team has flipped the switch just like that, and they're all doing it performing at some of their best levels that they perform in years. I'm not even saying just this season, like over the last 3-4 seasons in this Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo build. Bam's playing at a performance he hasn't really played, I feel like, in the playoffs since the bubble. Jimmy obviously is playing at a level he played at last season, but then even in some games he's playing above that. And now we're about to take this same supporting cast. They're shooting the lights out to the finals, hopefully. And like, personally, I feel like Miami can't be stopped.
I think, again, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves to talk about a Denver series, but
I'm
very-
hyped.
that presents very unique issues for them that I'm sure that if we have the opportunity, we'll get into it. And I wanna say a couple things before we get out of here. They have not won the series yet.
No,
They
but
haven't. And the idea that
history
they
shows
have,
that they will.
and I know that what we saw looked like a Celtic team that quit. I expect them to come out and to play as well. I expect a much better performance out of Boston tomorrow. They need to. Yeah, you don't, but I do. I think that those guys are professionals, and for as little as they've shown
they'll have
us,
maybe a good first quarter.
listen,
I don't think
if
way this
Miami,
team's
if
playing right
Miami
now,
has a bad shooting game and
Miami's not going to give them any.
Boston kind of hangs around, you never know what could happen. So the job is not finished. And as Solomon said, and as you know, we always quote the Kobe Bryant thing, job's not finished. I saw Chef Trilly had a really good tweet about this. He goes, I don't see any Heat players celebrating last night. They haven't won the series yet, you know. And I agree because, listen, if there's a situation where a team can come back, and I don't think Boston's going to come back. I'm not saying that they are. I think it's really unlikely. If there ever was going to be a situation, it's one like this, where if you get one on the road and then you get a home game and then you can win 2 in a row, and all of a sudden you just have to win one more game on the road to force Game 7 at home. And I know that's a lot of ifs, but I'm just saying it's a very unlikely. It's a stretch, but you know,
sound like a Knicks fan.
no, I'm not. I'm just saying that the job's not. I'm not a Knicks fan because I'm not begging Adam Silver to fucking.
No, that's what they were saying the
And I'm
last
not
series.
saying-
That hey, we win this game, we take it back to Miami, we win Game 6, we take it back to
Exactly.
MSG.
But that,
Like,
but
that's
but
not happening,
you know what the
guys.
difference between the Knicks and the Celtics are? The Celtics have a lot of talent. The Knicks don't. The Knicks had half a star. Get out of here.
Miami has the 3 best players in the series.
So, Caleb Warren's that good. So, just kind of saying that, but that this run is special, that we should enjoy. Sorry there wasn't a lot of X's and O's talk. I don't know how much X's and O's talk you want. I mean, Miami just.
Oh, for the last game, man, what did they do differently that they haven't already shown you in this playoffs?
So Boston was sending some help off of. They were just sending a lot more help off of Jimmy isolations or off of switches with Derek White, and I thought Miami did a really good job with their cutters, kind of dealing with that, because like they would just do that thing where they do the weak side, they do the empty corner pick and roll on the strong side, and then on the weak side they just kind of have everyone hang out. And I thought they were, and Lowe talked about it too, but you know, Boston was kind of, you know, ready for that as they kind of had an adjustment, and Miami kind of adjusted by having kind of Bam cut baseline a couple times, or Caleb cut baseline, or you know, kind of having one of those guys set a
Dunker's
screen.
spot.
Yeah, well, Duncan, that would happen a lot. It'd be like Duncan and Max, or Duncan and whoever, and Gabe. And one of those guys sets a screen where the other one kind of curls up. So, like, they were zoning up that side, sending help. But then, you know, kind of when you have that motion, Miami was ready for that. I thought the Heat did a much better job in this game than the other games of getting Derek White isolated to kind of force Boston into those situations. And
Absolutely.
Jimmy didn't need to score on those situations. I thought also on those Tatum, Rob pick and rolls, they sent the help at the nail very early to kind of contain that role. And Boston, what they've done is they made Gabe Vincent the low man on these actions. So they kind of, and that's one of the kind of bad things about not being able to play Kyle Lowry more. He did not have a great game yesterday, and obviously he had the poor game before that. He had a Kyle Lowry game yesterday in which he wasn't really scoring or shooting well, but he did a lot of other things. But you know, Gabe had it going. You play Gabe a lot. Gabe's not the same kind of helper that Kyle is. So Boston in game 2, you know, because Kyle wasn't playing well, they kind of were able to get away with making Gabe the low man, because then he rotates, and that's not like so good. And obviously Miami
the high pick and roll was beating Miami for some stretches in that game too.
So the Miami sent help at the nail early, right? And they and Miami was
They
really
played the
giving
zone.
Boston
They're playing the zone too.
a lot of topside threes, which Boston does not hit, and Miami's super daring them to shoot. And I think a lot of times when like you're not shooting well, that shit kind of avalanches. So credit to Miami for that. And yeah, so they had a couple things that I thought were interesting, but in reality, like I think Spo very consistently all playoffs has been ready for every adjustment everyone has made. He's coaching.
And to Solomon Hill's point, like he basically mentioned how Spo is basically prepared for like 5 or 6 different scenarios, and he has those adjustments ready to go on hand.
Yeah, he's a sicko. So
He's a fucking
So yeah, man, a little bit of a long show today, but we had Solomon, and I wanted to talk a little bit. I wanted to spout my own nonsense. We'll see you tomorrow for pregame and hangover time. Hopefully a closeout game on our 10-year anniversary, so we'll see what we have planned for that. And hopefully we're celebrating the Heat sweeping the Boston Celtics, and we can talk shit, and then we get into previewing a Heat finals, as I believe Denver's up right now on the Lakers.
I've been watching the Panthers game.
They are 20-15. Lakers are up 5, so Lakers showing a little bit of fight. So we'll see how that ends, and we'll come to you live tomorrow at 8 p.m. for pregame. And actually, we might come a little earlier. We might have a little surprise for pregame tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Right here on twitch.tv/Miami Heat Beat. If you are a pod listener, make sure to watch live tomorrow. It's going to be super, super fun. Check out our YouTube page, all that good stuff. Thanks to Solomon Hill and all of you guys that have supported us for the last 10 years. We love you, and see you tomorrow.